Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Steven and Kori and Get It Together. I'm Steven and
I'm Kori, and we get it together here first.
Absolutely.
Before we get it together here.
I've been hanging out with this girl now for 40 plus years. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
So ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, very special episode for you today. It is going to be phenomenal. Buckle up.
Yeah, it'll be, you know how we talk about real raw? Listen, we have some guests on and we have been real raw with them. So we are so excited and so honored to have them on. So I'm going to let Steven introduce them to you.
A special couple, it's Bob and Betty Ann Golden out of Las Vegas, Nevada. They are passionate leaders, helping other people achieve their personal dreams and financial freedom. Their journey together started back in 1967 when they met. They dated for 3 years and are happily married almost 54 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you know this or not, but here's the stat on couples. Less than 5%. Okay, did you hear me? Less than 5% of couples are married for 50 years. Yeah. 50 is actually the golden, opportunity from there. It's when you reach that, it's like this is the gold anniversary.
Yeah.
So the gold anniversary plus 4 for the Goldens, right? Now they have 2 sons. They actually had 2 sons by the time Bob was 20 and Betty Ann was 18. They literally learned life's lessons by growing up with their boys. In their personal life, they cherish all the time they spend with the family and especially with their 3 grandchildren. We are in for a treat, literally a treat.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bob and Betty Ann Golden. Hi, guys.
Hello.
So, Bob, how did you get so lucky? How did you get so lucky to meet you?
Well, it was just something I was born with.
So Betty Ann, tell us the truth. How did you guys meet?
Yeah. You guys tell us how you met.
Okay. Number one, I was a very shy and around boys. I was very shy growing up, and I never really be comfortable around boys. And so I was 13 years old and got dressed up because my mom told me to go to a party with her at someone's house that she had to drive a half hour to, and she didn't want to drive by herself. So I said, okay, Mom, I'll go with you. So I went and I met the people there and sat actually after the party. The women were all having coffee and stuff. And I sat in the family room with actually Bob's dad, because it was at Bob's mom's house, mom and dad's house. And so I was sitting in the living room watching Johnny Carson with his dad, who had just came home from work, and in pops Bob through the back door. And he walks over to his dad and he says hello to his dad. And then his dad goes, hey, Bob, I want to introduce you to Florence and Nick's daughter, Betty Ann. And I was sitting on the couch on one end. And then Bob goes to the other end of the couch and sits down. And Bob goes, oh, hi. And through the whole time that we were together, which was not a whole lot of time, but maybe a half hour, we kept looking at each other.
Yeah, kind of.
Didn't really say anything.
Kind of stealing glances from each other. But I will say that when my dad mentioned to me that Betty Ann was a guest, and she was, as I turned around, that it was an immediate attraction. I was like, wow, like, look at this on the couch. My God, so it was a very enlightening evening. But the crazy part about this is that, and of course, this is before cell phones and the internet and all the other stuff.
Before call waiting.
Before call waiting too. Yeah. Wow.
It's good.
That when Betty Ann left, we we never saw each other until a year later.
No.
Oh,
Nope, never saw each other for a whole year. I went to school, and of course, I talked about this tall, blonde surfer dude that I met, and I talked about him all year round to my girlfriends, but I never saw him again.
Because
And
remember, you were a half an hour away from each other. It's not like you were in the same school or anything.
no,
No.
no.
Right.
And so, anyways, I went, and my mom and dad, my brother was getting married, and he was in his mid-20s, and his friends at the time were either in the service, couldn't come home for the wedding, or back east, and for whatever reason, we have a big family, but his friends, he didn't have enough ushers. So he said, Mom and Dad, you belong to this Italian American club. Why don't you ask if you want ushers for the wedding? You need to ask
Go get the ushers, mom and dad.
So my mom makes this list of all the young boys that are sons of all her friends.
Yeah.
And I'm looking down the list, and I'm going, Mom, do you remember a year ago we went to the Goldens? And she goes, oh, yes, I'll put there. Because he also has a brother my age. And so she put the Golden Boys.
Okay, wait a
there.
minute. I have to ask this question, Betty Ann. Were you intentionally like, I want to see that guy again?
Yes.
Oh, you want?
I was like, whoa, yes. And I
Because
wouldn't
Yeah, because I will say, for both of us, during that year, we thought of each other often.
Mm.
but we just didn't see each other.
Yeah.
There was we didn't intermingle.
Mhm.
Even though our parents did, but we didn't. And so anyways, then my mom went to a party with all of them, which is very rare for his dad and mom to be at one of their parties because they had 7 kids. My mother-in-law was barefoot and pregnant. His dad was always working,
Yeah.
to support them.
Mhm.
So, but this time they were at the party too. And so my mom went around asking all the people that were on the list if their sons would be interested, and went to his dad, and his dad goes, why, yes, of course. And then, of course, he had to come home and ask mom.
Yeah.
Now, do you think his dad had intentions?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's all about, perfect timing.
yes.
One, my dad was very intuitive, and he knew that I liked Betty.
Mm.
He probably felt it that evening when he was, when we were together in the family room
Yeah.
a year prior.
He probably saw you turning to look at her so much.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's no question.
Well, he always called me his handpicked daughter-in-law.
Oh, that's so
So-
It's
So, to kind of fast forward a little bit, it was something that when my dad came home, he said, he asked me, goes, hey, do you remember Betty Ann, when she was over here a year ago with Lawrence's daughter? And I said, well, sure, Dad. And he said, well, her brother's getting married, and they're looking for some ushers. And how would you like to be Betty Ann's,
Usher.
usher for the wedding?
Yeah.
And I said, well, Dad, I don't know, because I didn't want to admit that he had feelings for her. Okay. I was now all of a sudden shy. And, and I said, well, why don't you have my brother Chuck do it? Because
You did not.
yeah, they're the same age. And my dad, of course, again, as sharp as he was, and he had an answer for me. And he says, well, that would be fine, except they need somebody that can drive.
Smart.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They need somebody that can drive. And so why don't you do this? Why don't you, because it was in the evening, he says, why don't you go to bed? Why don't you think about it and let me know in the morning? So I woke up in the morning, walked into the kitchen, and of course I found my dad right at the kitchen table, reading a newspaper and smoking a cigarette and drinking his coffee. That was it. I walked in and there it was. And he puts the newspaper down and peeks over it and says, well, what will it be? And I looked at him and I go, okay. And he goes, smart move. And then he brings the newspaper up and starts reading it again. Oh, it's good. So that was it. And, a couple of weeks later, we go, I went over to Betty Ann's mom and dad's house for a kind of a get together dinner for everybody in the wedding party over there. And I will tell you that after I was there, Betty Ann, when I walked in, I had a little bit of an anxiety due to the fact that I scanned the room and there was no Betty Ann.
How to make an entrance.
So she came out a few minutes later, and then 5 minutes later, we sat on the couch next to each other, and we haven't been separated since.
Oh, wow. What a story.
I love it. I love it. We're going to move on to being married. And I want to go into, because we do have a lot here. You guys, again, we talked to them earlier and Bob said, when you're married 54 years, you got a lot going on. You got a lot of life. And so we don't want to skimp on anything that they have to pour into you or into us, which they've always done that. I call Betty Ann my sensei because she has been this guiding light for me in business. And so we'll get into that too. But speaking of that, Bob and Betty Ann together, I'm reading from this because it says it so clearly. They are a philanthropist. They have helped, and I'm going to talk to you about how they pour into other people.
Yes.
Okay.
That's so important.
They have helped Veterans Village, which they're going to tell you what that is, with fundraising, creating and orchestrating a few highly successful rock concerts in their local Vegas, with the local Vegas talent. They have been board members of Monday's Dark since their beginning, which was 10 years ago, raising $2 million for local Las Vegas charities. So Bob and Betty Ann, we know there's a whole lot more, but can you talk to us about Monday's Dark 501c3 and Veterans Village? So give us a little bit of background on that.
Well, it actually all started, the philanthropic endeavors started with us with, they've always been involved in our life in a little capacity, one way or the other. However, when we moved to Las Vegas, we got connected to Veterans Village, and Veterans Village, it's a pretty unique charity that deals with homeless, disabled vets.
Wow.
And by the way, that
Those words should not be connected.
should never be in the same sentence. And so it is something that we found that organization, and we just got connected to it by happenstance. And at the same time, I ended up learning about a company that was printing a bunch of vitamin water labels, and the labels were misprinted, and they had all these bottles of vitamin water that they could not sell because it was misprinted. And to make a long story short, I asked for the water. They gave it to me. We're talking like pallets that would fill 4 semi trucks.
It's a lot of water.
Did you give this to Veterans Village?
I kid you not. And yes. And so what I did is I love being a analyst, bringing people an opportunity together and creating strength stronger than if you were separate.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing that. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I put them together on that. But when I called the CEO of Veterans Village, and I told him what I had, and I learned a very valuable lesson with this, and that was charities do not communicate with other charities.
Mm.
So they're not working together.
Mhm.
And I was like shocked.
They don't even know each other.
Yeah. So what I did is, and when I mentioned about how much water I had, bottles of water, um, they told me that they didn't have room to keep it.
Hmm.
They had no place to store it. So I'm trying to figure this out. So it was like a jigsaw puzzle. But what I did is I said, look, what about let's be a hero and let's offer it to other charities.
Right.
Mm.
So this way you can be the conduit, you be the hero, and I'll take a step in the back and let you contact these other charities. And so we started doing that, and as over the course, I would say it probably was a good 6 months before we could disperse all that water.
But in the meantime, you had a couple of concerts.
Yeah, and in the meantime, to bring awareness to this water and to bring awareness to Veterans Village, I put on a couple of rock concerts
Mm.
for them, and which was a lot of fun. And do understand that, well, where did I come up with bringing a rock concert?
Mhm.
And it was real simple. My whole life, I've grown up around and in the music industry, and mainly around rock, you
Hmm.
know, and along with also television, motion picture, and this was uh, this is an area that's very easy for me because
Mhm.
I grew up in it,
Mhm.
and so what we did is we put these concerts on. We brought awareness, raised some money, uh, got rid of some water, and we just kept on doing that a couple of times, and it turned out really good, which opened the door, I think, probably for some awareness of a few years later, when Mark Chinook started, and he came up with the concept of Monday's Dark. Um, he contacted Betty Ann and I to ask us to be on the board and to start helping him build that platform.
To the audience, I want you to know that Bob and Betty Ann came out of California. So when Bob talks about him having the experience in the entertainment industry, he was in the probably the heartbeat of, especially in that era of the entertainment industry in California before moving to Vegas. Correct,
Ye-
Bob?
I was right in the hotbed of every bit of that.
Yeah.
And also, when we moved to Vegas, we met all the entertainers here and we supported them at each one of their shows.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to donate their time for the charities to be at the concerts.
Right.
So it was a really great community awareness and just for everyone.
Yeah, it was one thing about Las Vegas is that it appears to be huge, but it is not. It's got a very small town mentality, and everybody is interconnected, especially the entertainment industry. Everybody's interconnected,
And they all want to help everything.
and exactly, it's pretty. It's amazing. It
Yeah.
truly is.
One of the things I'm noticing as I sit and listen to you guys, and I'm like literally feeling the energy between the two of you. So
Mhm.
we're going to take a different direction in this conversation. And we want to hear about the love story between
Mm.
Bob and Betty Ann Golden. There is an energy, there is a
Mhm.
transparency. Give us an inside like look at the story, this love story that you guys have created over the last 54 years. What's been the glue?
Hold it. Well, let me tell you where, uh, and again, it started with that those glances at the very beginning. But uh, when I was 16 and Betty Ann was 14, what I did is I gave Betty Ann some tulips, and I wrote on the card that these are to represent our two lips.
That's fantastic.
At 16, I was pretty corny, but sure.
We're already.
What the point is, but in our 54 years, um, I haven't missed a Valentine's Day to present her with tulips.
Yep.
And there was a couple of times that were pretty challenging at that. We won't go into all the details there, but
But they appeared.
they appeared, and it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But our love for each other, it's something that it believe it or not, it grows every day.
Mhm.
And so you could say to me, you could ask me a question right now. Well, geez, could your love get any greater for Betty Ann? And I would say, no, it's maxed out today, but tomorrow it'd be more.
Yeah.
You-
Let me ask you this, the both of you. We talked before, we've spoken about raising your children. If you have, if you're young in marriage and you wait and grow your marriage and then start having children, or if you decide to have children as soon as you get married. Tell me because in here it talks about how you enjoyed learning life lessons with your children. Talk about that, because there's a lot of young marrieds meaning not their age, but newly married, who also have children. As a matter of fact, our nephew is one of them, so talk about how you formulate that where it becomes a benefit.
Well, I always looked at it that number one, I was, m- we got married and I had a child like
Mhm.
6 months later, 7 months later. And I I loved being pregnant for me, and I enjoyed having my child. But I will say, number one for us, it, I would never suggest someone that young to do what we did,
Mhm.
because it does take a strength of being an adult. And even though you're married, you have children, are you capable of being a mom and dad? And I always questioned whether or not I'd be a good mom because I wasn't that, oh, I want to be a babysitter and,
Mhm.
take care of kids and stuff. That wasn't really me. It was my sister,
Mhm.
but it wasn't me. And so I thought, oh, am I going to be a good mom? And then I just realized that, if you treat them like you would want to be treated,
Mm.
not as a baby, but treat them as little people.
Yeah.
And that, you have more of a chance of being communicative
Mhm.
and being able to experience things together. And growing up with our kids, since we were so young, we didn't get to do certain things like going skiing. We didn't know how to ski. So once our kids were, able to ski, we learned to ski at the same.
Mm.
We
That's
went together, that was one thing. I mean, we went water skiing. We learned to water ski. I learned to swim when my kids learned to swim.
well,
I
that's
mean,
cool.
I was always afraid of water. I'm not the biggest fan of water, but am now
Yeah.
able to swim and jump in.
But that had to be fun for your kids to see mom and dad experience things with them too.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. How
Yeah.
about when Bob was out there slaying the dragon, making the money? So that meant that a lot of the pressure was on you. Can you speak to how you were able to navigate that? It sounds like you guys, you created a
Well,
team.
Mhm.
Tell us
well,
about.
that's really, excuse me, Bob, but that's really because he had to work
Mhm.
and he had to work 6 days a week. So then Saturdays, he was never really off for games. So when they went to soccer, when started baseball, he wasn't necessarily at the games. Um, Maybe every once in a while he was able to, but he wasn't there all the time. So it was me. I was the team mom. I was the one cheering on. I was making sure they got to practice. I was the one that, but yet when he came home, he supported the fact that they were on a team and they needed commitment
Mhm.
and to teach them how to be a teammate.
Mm.
And I think that's the biggest thing about putting kids in sports if they want to,
Yeah.
not because you want them to.
Right.
And
Yeah, it's funny because when they were old enough to, I played baseball all my life. And when they were old enough to play baseball, I immediately thought, oh my God, this is the opportunity. And we can, I said about getting them in Little League. And they looked at me and they go, well, Dad, we don't want to play Little League. And it crushed me. I had to go outside and yell and scream and then come back inside the house and, calm and cool. And then they drove a stake in my heart and they said, we want to play soccer.
Well, actually, I don't know if it's how much they really wanted to play soccer, because if they ever hear this speak, I think it was an alternative because some of their friends were playing soccer and they didn't want to play t-ball is really what they didn't want to play.
So, to make a long story short, I supported that whole thing, even though it was a little, because I never grew up with soccer. That was foreign to me, but the thing was they were part of it. And so I gave them, and it backfired on me. I gave them the good old team spirit speech that, they're on a team. They have to commit to the team. They're part of the team. There's no I in team, all of that, all of that stuff. So, a few years later, they are playing baseball. They were on the All-Stars and, they sound very, good in it, but we were going to go skiing, and we were going to Innsbruck, Austria to go skiing. And they basically said, Dad, we can't go. And I says, what do you mean you can't go? I said, we're talking Innsbruck, Austria here. And he goes, well, Dad, we can't go. We're part of a team. You let the team down. And, so I had to.
And there's no I in team, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to talk to the manager, and they were already head in the, in the series. So to make a long story short, he worked with me and I let them off and said, hey, look, guys, please go, because I'm going to play the other kids. I'm not going to play the other kids. So why, we're trying to give everybody, turn on. So yeah, there you went. And so, like I said before, you got to be careful with kids of what you say to them. But
because they take it literal. They take what you say to heart.
Which I'm really glad they did.
Yeah.
And I do think that if you wanted us to talk to parents that are first having children, and whether or not you've been married for a while, or if you're just getting married and you're just having children right away, it does take a lot of communication between the two of you to understand that, whoever is working more with the children versus outside the home, or even a home business, your mind has to be focused on the main thing that you're doing, which is either taking care of your kids or making money. And some of us can do both, but sometimes two, when you do more than two, which is take care of the kids, work from home or work outside the home, and try to be good with yourself and your spouse, somewhere along the line, that third thing goes awry. And the communication is very important to keep it there. And you need to be honest with each other. You need to be honest with yourself, number one, and then honest and allow the other person to be honest. And you need to be able to really understand why somebody feels a certain way, maybe even if you don't agree with them.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't communicate and say, you know what? Okay, let's come to an agreement that we can work through this, because it's not something you're stuck with forever. It's a temporary time. You don't have a whole lot of time with your kids. And once they go on doing their own thing, that you don't know if you're even going to see them, even if they live down the street from you, because They got their own life now,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's kind of, eventually it becomes like, what happened to my family?
Yeah. Right. And the other part of that is that with parents and with children is that you have to also always remember. In fact, Kori, you did say that when we were talking about, being on a team, and that is the children. They're always watching you,
Yeah.
and so that means that whatever you do or whatever you say,
Mm-hmm.
think twice.
And it's
Yeah.
not necessarily what you do to or say to them,
Mm-hmm.
how you interact
With each
together
other,
with each other
with your
or
spouse.
with your own self.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Look, see whether or not you respect yourself, whether you respect each other, and whether you respect all as a family.
Mm-hmm.
And even outside your family, how do you treat your friends? What do you say about your friends? What do you say about your other extended families? What do you say that they hear without you telling them?
Right. We have a show that we just finished, and it says the title of it is "You Let the Kids Do What," and it's about, like you just said, Bob. It's about you. Kids are watching you. They're always watching. They're watching your silence. They're watching your body language. And a lot of times when kids are little, they want what they want, and
Yeah.
if they can figure out how to get that,
They'll
it's adapt, die, or migrate, and they're not dying and they're not migrating. So you're going to adapt to them sometimes. So you're right. It is a team. It's always a team. And when the children feel like that, which you guys, so you have 2 sons and you have 3 grandchildren.
Yes.
Now, the grandchildren, we know one of the grandchildren because we got to meet Bob and Betty Ann when he was, is it Brody?
Brady.
Brady.
Okay. How would I forget that? Tom Brady. But anyway, Brady was little when we got to meet, when we started having time with Bob and Betty Ann. And man, he was the apple of their eye. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to see them. But, Bob and Betty Ann always looked, they're ageless. So, it could have been their kid for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
But talk about how you, Betty Ann, there's something that Betty Ann does called acronyms, and you guys all know what acronyms. Bob does it too, also. But do you gather those things from your life lessons? Because being a grandparent is totally different, as we know, as being a parent, and then being a wife and a husband is totally. And I believe being a wife and husband are totally different than just being live-in partners. Can you attest to that?
Yes.
Okay. So give me some acronyms about all of the experiences, because I've got some here, but they've got like shoe boxes full of acronyms, I'm sure.
Well,
So share with the audience some of your acronyms.
number one, it started out one time we were at an event and a young couple that wasn't married yet came up to us and asked us, what's the secret? What's your secret? What do you feel is the main one word or one thing that is the most important in your relationship? And this was about 25 years ago. And I said, communication. And like I said before, it's communicating honestly with yourself and allowing the other person to be honest with themselves and be able to tell you how they truly feel. And you can tell them how you truly feel without feeling like you have to say it in a certain way because you're afraid of what they're going to think.
Mm-hmm.
Because number one, I can't think for Bob.
Right, right.
And every time I think I know how he's going to feel, and I don't act authentically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I need to do it in a special way so that he'd like it or won't get mad or whatever. Every time that happens, that's when an argument starts, or that's when an aggravation, the energy changes.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden it's like, okay, then you start arguments over stupid things. And it's always off of not being authentic to yourself and not fearing what someone else is going to say. Because when you're honest, you can't there's no way if you're honestly telling someone how you feel, they may get mad, but they're not going to get mad for very long because they have to realize that if they need to be honest with themselves and they go, okay, I don't like that. I'm not happy about that, but I understand why you feel that way.
Yes.
That's good.
And so anyways, I was telling them all that communication, understanding, have respect. And this is all for yourself. Communication, understand, respect each other. Okay. So you can do all that. And when she turned around to me and she went, you have the cure. CURE. Communication, understanding, respect each other.
That's
Love
what,
it.
Every day.
yeah, that's what started it all.
And that's what started my acronyms.
Wow. Tell them about, I see here, I'm going to ask you to explain them each because I have them here. You've got love, and you've got love in 2 different formats. So go right ahead.
Woo! Okay. The one most commonly right now that I am easy to say is life's only valuable emotion. Okay. And to me, that's wonderful. It's a great saying, but also determines on what you expect or know or experienced in love. Because now I am.
That's a
just
good point, Betty, because different people experience different ways of love.
Yeah.
So, and it
And
is all valuable, and it's
it's
all
very
emotional.
valuable.
You
So
just
that's
don't
why I
understand
have.
that.
Yeah, I have another one is there's actually 2 others, but it's lifting other vibrational energetically, others vibration energetically,
Wow, that's
and
great.
then life's ongoing vibrational energy, which is really what love means to me. So I have had, I'm, s- I've actually real quick, I've started a little podcast with a friend of mine in Canada, and we call it Your Heart of Love. And the reason why we say your heart of love is what does love really mean to you?
Yes.
Because when I've told people about my acronym, Life's Only Valuable Emotion, I've had people come to me and say, well, love to me is not a happy place because they've been told that someone has loved them, but they've been beaten by them
Right. Yeah.
verbally, abusively, or whatever,
Physically.
and physically. And so their interpretation of love isn't
Yeah.
the only valuable emotion.
Yeah.
To them, that's not a valuable emotion. And
Mhm.
that's when people don't learn how to love.
Right. Right.
And they don't even love themselves. So anyway, so that's why I came up with a few other acronyms for love, because it really is more of a life's ongoing vibrational energy that you create.
That's good. Okay. What about life?
Yes,
Right.
living in faith every day. But it also could be living in fear every day.
And you have to choose.
Again.
You have to, yeah, and you're the
What
only
is
one that
your life going to be? Are you going to
Yeah.
live in fear or are you going to live in faith?
can faith. That is correct.
And it's also
Or
how
fun?
can you turn that life around from the fear to the faith?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, do you want to
Yeah.
live in fun? You know,
You know, the fear part can be also, what's really amazing about that letter F is if you look in the dictionary for the positive and negative, boy, there's a lot of F words that come up. Because you have on the negative, you got frustration.
Yeah.
You got
furious.
and furious. I mean, it's
There's
really,
a lot of
I mean,
4-letter words.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's exact. Yeah, there's a lot of
And
4-letter.
positive.
Yeah, no, it's true. Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do is we're going to go to another episode of this. This is so enriching
It
and
is.
so exciting.
We are loving this.
When
We're loving
we're
this.
loving this, and so when we come back, we're going to talk about an F word called finance. That's an F word called finance. That's one of
There
the
you
lyrics
go. There's another
of
one.
marriages.
Yeah.
So we want to hear about that, but we know you've had some very successful entrepreneurial ventures, and you guys somehow learned how to work together. So when we come back on the next session here,
Yeah.
we're going to hear about those
We're
kind
going
of
to talk
things.
about their entrepreneurship and the things that they've done as philanthropists in their lives to touch others. So, Bob and Betty Ann, we want to thank you for this episode of
Yes.
Getting Together. And you
Love
guys stay tuned for our next session with them.
Right.
Take care, you guys.